What's going on, guys? It's Greg Farley from The Wise Guys, aka Pegasus. Haven't done a video in a little bit. Had a lot of traveling to do from back and forth between YCS Fort Worth and Kansas City. Played Infernoids. It was a really cool experience. Started off really well. Played several YouTubers. I played Asia Persuasion around 4, I think, and he was playing some madness. I hope he does a good deck profile because that deck profile was nuts. And I played Team King of Games right after that. And then I was like 3-2, I think, and then I started winning some more, and then got to the last round of day one, and lost to Jobber. Me and him, I look up to him so much, man. You guys know how Jobber is. He's had the best team in the game for a while. I was playing Infernoids, of course, and he's playing anti-meta nonsense, and he normal summoned Fossil Dyna, and that was pretty much the end of my day. So, without further ado, I wanted to give you guys the deck profile of a deck I played. It was just how I played it for the event. There could have been some changes here or there. I'll talk about that in the deck profile, but without further ado, let's get into it. YG, baby. Alrighty, guys. So we're getting into that young deck profile. So yeah, again, I played Infernoids. I enjoy the hell out of this deck. A lot of times, like this format, I hate Orcus. I could have played Orcus in this some kind of way. I don't like this format so much anymore. It's kind of nonsensical. And then if you're not playing Orcus, then you can kind of play whatever the hell you want to. I really enjoyed this deck, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. We had 3 Decatrons. And shout out to Miles Valentino. Me and him kind of worked on this. He played it a little bit differently to me, but it was still really good. But Decatron is basically the wheels to everything, sends everything to the grave and copies their levels or gains their level. So you got to kind of be careful about how you play that card. 3 double Anutu. Shout out to the oldies. They're clean. They're clean. They're clean. Sunlight doesn't give it its just due. 2 Diviati. This card was nuts all weekend. I'll explain later. You'll see a card that made it nuts all weekend. And then with the big Infernoids, I played 1 of each. I didn't main the trap, so I feel like this could have been something else all weekend. But I mean, you also want different names, so I mean, it is what it is. You can make some adjustments yourself. Petrulia, 2 of those. This was actually really good for me because a lot of times I'll know exactly where a card is that I have to deal with, like a Crescendo, like a Widow Anchor. You know, when I know exactly where it is, a multi-roll, and it's always going to bait out the important things. And then you can do whatever you want to after that. Or you can have a combo where you just need to know where the MST is. That comes up. It's the same deal for the Antras. You know, if I'm playing against Orcus, then I know exactly where the link is, and I can get rid of the link by banishing the special of this guy. Then they have to use the counter trap, and then I can rain on their parade entirely, you know. So I think it's hard to break certain boards like the Orcus Luna Light board. That's really, really hard to break, especially when they have Imperial Order backed up with a Crescendo, you know. So that's where you would need, you know, combinations of some of these cards. But I also have some other cards, but mainly against anything that's the basic meta or the really, really strong deck that's meta, that's not something just you couldn't see coming. These cards all did really, really well this weekend. They dominated. So basically I dominated everything meta. And I lost to, as I said, I lost to King of Games, which he was playing Pendulum Orchestra, and double counter trap Pendulum board is really, really good, especially if I couldn't interrupt him with any hand traps. Then Harmadic. This card was weird, and I probably cut it because it didn't do anything, and everybody floats or everybody has a way to stop this anyway. But it does get you to Omega, I guess, so that's why I think I played this. And then the powerhouse of the deck is the spells, because you don't want to draw those Infernoids and 3 of this guy. I feel like the deck's weakness is consistency, so like why wouldn't you play this card? You just change your extra deck up to be able to mask the weakness of the deck. 3 of these. They were pretty good. The Searcher did really well. Can't really complain about it. So yeah, that was pretty much it with that. It was what it needed to be, and that's pretty much it. 3 of the best card in the deck. It's the fusion spell. It's the only reason I play the deck anymore. There's no powerhouse mill card except for Monster Gate. There's no, reasoning isn't as strong as it was. Grass isn't here anymore. So you need something to dump all of them to the graveyard. And you need to ensure this. So how I played it was to bait everything first and then drop this and then win the game. And it did exactly what I wanted it to against Striker, against Salad, against Orcus. Like I said, I lost to some wild decks that, you kind of can't prepare for. Sometimes you just got to win that game on the spot against a strategy you may have never seen before. Like I said, with Johnny playing Danger, whatever in the world. Basically, our match had 3 battle phases in it altogether. And then Team King of Games, we had an awesome match. He ended up winning in game 3, and there was nothing I could really do to change it. It was just he came out ahead at the end, and came down to time. It got really close. I ran out of resources, and that's pretty much what it was. But this card was totally insane, and a lot of people never noticed, but this is like the Oracle of Zephyr being torn down. So I like the artwork of this card, and that's pretty much it on that. 3-layer is the way I played it. You could probably like move one of these and then add in like the trap card. I decided to go hard second, and I didn't want to draw the trap at all when I'm going second, because I don't need it when I'm going second. I need the powerhouse. So maybe it could have it came up like once during the 9 rounds. So I feel like my theory was correct on that. Layer is just nuts, and you'll understand why in a second. Well, you already understand, but these guys, this was the tech card that was the best card in my deck. The ability to resolve Tierra through certain cards, through hand traps, whether it be Deviati, and then they try to Widow Anchor it, and you chain enemy controller and remove it from the board. If they don't counter trap your Deviati, if they don't counter trap whatever, they're going to be in trouble. Also, when you have Layer, if Layer sticks, then any card like Crescendo, any of these cards where they basically depend on the card being there, really comes down to Orcus. You can tribute off your opponent's link. If they let this stick, tribute off your opponent's link and then take their Dengursu, and then everything that they just did on their turn meant nothing. I OTK'd multiple people because of enemy controller. It really was absolutely insane. And I also get into another card that made it absolutely insane. But enemy controller was disgusting. And it actually, the other effect to block or change their monster from attack to defense actually saved me a couple times as well. I played 3 Monster Gate. Same thing. If they let Layer stick and then you Monster Gate something away, it's too late, which is really, really good, really, really strong. And it's the powerhouse mill card that we kind of have to have, so I played 3. 3 mind control. This was just bait the whole weekend. It did what it needed to do, and if they did let me take something, I usually OTK'd them, because I drop a fire monster, make Hita, and I can show you that combo at the end of this video. But mind control was really good. 3 Call by the Grave and a Terraforming. Just having this on top of the Infernoid effects makes games unwinnable for certain graveyard decks, so that's pretty much what we did with that. Now, getting into the side deck, I also get into the extra deck right after this. This was incorrect. The last 3 cards, I could not figure out exactly what I was gonna see, and I felt like I wanted something else for when I go first. Summon Limit won me a game, but other than that, Skill Drain, I understood what I was doing. The Infernoids contribute off, so you can still activate their effects under Skill Drain, but it just wasn't super duper great. So these cards I would change for something. Have no idea what it is, but I would change it. The Void Feast, obviously, like I said earlier, you can change one thing out in the deck and put one of these in your main deck, but I felt like if you're going second, why create the brick that probably doesn't need to be there, but that was just my theory. It could be completely wrong. I actually think I could have played one, but that never really came up except for once, which means it didn't really come up. 3 Twin, back row, 3 Reboot, back row, 3 Evenly, back row. Those decks are really, really super duper annoying, especially when you get hit with a Mystic Mine or something. But I ended up pulling all those games out anyway, because you can clear the boards the way that you need to when you need to. The extra, 3 Tierra. Can't say enough about this card. You can also, ensure this effect. If it doesn't get counter trapped, if they try to Valor it or whatever and you enemy controller and take it off the field, it's just too strong. Also came up with the heat to OTK multiple times, and also Tierra can send the other Tierras to create more Infernoid names in the grave, which is actually really important. If you do banish the Intis, you can still do some plays. 3 Intis, or Ts, as other people call it. She was really good. I actually had a guy made Dweller, which was a really good play because it saved him from dying. He made a Dweller to stop this from happening and blowing him out. So I thought that was really cool. And it also won me the game because he was so scared of this that he didn't prepare for anything else. And it won the game for me outright. So I wouldn't change a thing about that. Equimax, I can explain the OTK in a second. Really good. I mean, I Equimax OTK'd people like 6 times during the tournament. Wouldn't change a thing. Absolutely insane, and it is generic. People never actually read Equimax. Equimax is actually generic. He just takes one link monster. The other monster doesn't really matter, you know, as long as it's one link monster, which this is that link monster, Hita. So a lot of times what happens is I'll make this, I'll special summon back a fire monster that they have, and then I'll make this guy. Or if they let me resolve mind control and I can make her and then pull something back, I'll make Equimax and have another monster on the board, which has come up, you know, so on and so forth. Whatever can get you to Equimax, and then I'll explain the combo at the end. It was too good. And then these are generic because of layer. Sometimes you get stuck with layer on the board and you still have to put in work. This can lead to an OTK. If you Tonedale attack twice, that's 3,300 twice. You know, that's really good. And then the other big Infernoids can come up. So if you can't get to Hita, you have to play this. Omega didn't come up that much, but it did bait out Gizmek Orochi, which was interesting because people kept saying, what, it can do that? Both graveyards had a judge call. Yes, it can do that. Bait out the Gizmek and then win the game from there. And then Nightmare Phoenix, just because you got to get rid of the back row sometimes, you know. So that really comes up. So the OTK basically comes down to this. Let's say your opponent ashed something you did with a Decatron. So this is hit to here. I have a Decatron, you know, anything, really it's anything, but let's say I, just using an example, like I mind control and have a Decatron. So that got ashed. Oh darn, okay, mind control, take this, link the 2, make Hita, bring back the Equimax. You know, that's actually happened multiple times, or I mean the Ash Blossom. Then make Equimax. Then from there, if I have a graveyard full of Infernoids, which usually I do because of Void Imagination, Equimax points down at, if you give me a split second, points down at something like this. You always want to summon Deviati last. If you get Nibiru, I think it's like 1, 2, let's see, Hita. Usually it's going to get really close to you getting Nibiru, so you got to be careful. Anunsu's game, it's obviously more damage, but this is also game, and it's also a ton of damage, and you need to protect yourself from Nibiru, and Deviati can negate Nibiru. But the OTK basically is, if they're dumb enough to point something in front of this, then you just attack it, and you probably win the game right there. But if you don't, this right here is a ton of damage. You see that's 49, and then you add the 28 more. That's a whole lot of damage, you know, somewhere close to 8,000. If it's not quite 8,000, you Tonedale, use its effect, move this out of the way, and then your monsters are allowed to attack. Remember, Equimax prevents monsters it points to from attacking, but a Tonedale moves it, a lot like the Fairy Tale Snow combo, and then these guys are wide open. This is my deck profile. Appreciate you guys tuning in. That was my Fort Worth experience. Shout out to Jobber, man. He's an awesome dude, man. Couldn't do anything with that matchup. And the other 2 matchups, they were just really, really well-built decks that I lost to in Game 3. And sometimes it comes down to the nitty-gritty, down in the last round. So appreciate you guys tuning in. YG, baby.